he's probably very conscious of how short his career is. And in fairness to Healy, when Healy's on top form, I don't think many in the world would get ahead of him. That's just the reality of it. But for Jack, to give himself the best possible chance, he probably feels he needs to play 60 minutes every week, and that's not always that's not going to be easy in Leinster. And he's British and Irish line. He's a top class international rugby player, and the reason these guys are top class is because they back themselves. So he will feel, if I get 60 minutes every week, I can get ahead of Cian Healy. I was ahead of him before, but he probably feels, what's the point in taking the risk of that not even happening in Leinster? At least if he's playing every week in Ulster, and obviously he has to go and get ahead of Eric O'Sullivan in Ulster if he goes there, but it's up to him then. It's up to him to show the form. But if you feel that game time is what's holding you back and you can't get in your province, I think that's the worry for Leinster. How can they manage? And in fairness, they are very good at it. They generally are very good at managing people's game time. And in fairness, I think Jack's one is a little bit different because he had that operation in November, so it's not Leinster's fault he hasn't had enough games. But he's basically competing directly with, if there's a British and Irish Lions tour this summer, Cian Healy would probably be number one loosehead. So it's on his doorstep. But I think also the problem for Leinster is they saw, you see Tom Farrell going to Connacht and making the Irish squad. You see, Murray mentioned Jordy Murphy. You see John Cooney. So you see Nick McCarthy now going to Munster. Does he feel in Munster, he's going to be number two, for example, and Connor's going to be away a lot, and that's going to be his chance to get higher than he would if he was behind Gibson Park and Luke McGrath. So it's going to be interesting. As Murray said, Nusafora probably wanted a situation where guys are actually looking to move province for themselves rather than being forced or being advised to do it from an IRFU point of view, because obviously politically that's messy. But I think the good thing as well is that the environment and the culture and the setup and facilities in the four provinces now is very strong. So it's not a step back. Like Connacht could easily be in the European Cup, Champions Cup, based on their performances this year in the Pro 14. So you're not just going to just play Pro 14 or Challenge Cup. You're literally going somewhere where there's a chance to win silverware. And in all four provinces, if Ulster rebuild under Dan McFarlane like they're looking to do, they'll be up there with Leinster and Munster in terms of budget and squad depth eventually, not yet. But so there's not really a huge amount of difference between moving province. The only thing is you're leaving potentially your province of your birth, and that's a big thing. You know what I mean? And that's a hard thing. So if Jack does go to Ulster, he's a Leinster man through and through. But I think it's becoming, that's the problem a little bit to a certain extent, it's becoming less parochial maybe and more franchise.
How big a thing actually is provincial loyalty? Like if you look outside of rugby, there aren't many kind of walks of life in which it's hugely important to be from a province. Like our parochialism in Ireland is generally county based.
Yeah, but it's in rugby, and it's one of the key reasons why the Irish provinces are successful is because they have a unique identity. So I kind of said, I'm worried, I'd be afraid it could become like a franchise system, but I think what we have is unique and it's special, and so 90% of the Leinster team are from Leinster. I'm not sure what Munster is now. It used to be nearly 95% or 100%, but it's still definitely more than 75, 80%. And strong characters in there like Peter Mahoney, Conor Murray, Keith Earls, etc., who make sure that if you go into that Munster dressing room, you know what you're representing, what's happened in the past, and people buy into it, and that's very strong. Ulster's obviously incredibly unique in itself, and Connacht have created a really good identity there, started by Pat Lam to a certain extent, and looking to really represent the whole province. So that's a unique thing that Irish teams have, much more so than the Viva Premiership team or Gallagher Premiership teams, I think, or Welsh regions have struggled a little bit with that identity. Scarlets are probably the best at it, and they've been the most successful in recent years. Obviously, Ospreys historically have been, but and Glasgow and Edinburgh have created to a certain extent after a couple of years of trial and error. So that's it's unique to us. It's a massive driver of success. It's a massive driver of culture, but it's probably going to be. It's just we have to be careful we don't lose it as well.